So we have an exclusive first look at the upcoming Steam machine here. I mean, clearly this is the Steam, and this is the machine. So, yeah. I've just been informed for legal reasons we can no longer call this the Steam machine. SteamStation. The SteamStation. PlayStation 5, SteamStation 5. Yeah. Yeah, so many years ago on the channel. Actually, how long ago was it? A whopping 3 years ago. So that's almost 4 years now. So almost 4 years ago, I built this. Kind of this. Not even really close to this. Actually, there's like nothing in here is even the same. The case is about the only thing that remains of that. I called it building the PlayStation 5 as a joke, because I was never going to buy an actual PS5, and I just wanted a computer that, you know, could act like a console. It was an extremely rough first draft. The specs of that were some random SSD for booting that had two 4TB WD blacks in a RAID 0, because yeah, an old HP motherboard with a 3770, which, I mean, that actually was like kind of okay. That was probably like the most okay part of the system. Some Wi-Fi card that I ripped out of a broken Dell laptop, 16GB of DDR3, and this beast, the EVGA GeForce GTX 760 with, count 'em, not 1, but 2GB of VRAM. Ah yes, this thing absolutely would go toe-to-toe with a PS5 and not barely a PS4. And to top it all off, it ran Windows 7, because you could still get Steam to work on Windows 7 back then. Yeah, did I tell you that was a really early rough draft? It worked. I didn't play hardly any games on it. I mean, just the whole thing was really not that great. It was kind of just an excuse for me to have this thing not just take up space empty and actually put some parts in it. But a lot has changed in the last 4 years. The gaming landscape has completely changed since early 2022. That's because actually building a PC to be a console like this has actually really become way more feasible than it ever was before in terms of just like having a smooth gaming experience. And that's, of course, all thanks to Valve. We're all familiar with the Steam Deck at this point, and gosh, this thing's actually almost 4 years old itself. But yeah, I did buy a Steam Deck a couple years ago. I don't play on this as much as I probably should, and that's actually because I play more on this thing now than I do on this, believe it or not. But yeah, honestly, me getting the Steam Deck kind of really started making me think, like, wait, can I actually build like a proper Steam machine? Of course, I'm not even close to the first person who's, you know, done this with the new Steam Big Picture mode and all the, Proton stuff that the Steam Deck really helped. But early in 2025, I decided, you know what? Let's just see what parts can I scrounge up, and can I make a pretty decent modern gaming experience? 1080p. That's the most my display goes that this is hooked up to anyways, so it doesn't matter. 1080p was the target. How cheap, but how good of an experience can I get out of that? So I think I've definitely spent less than $100 on this total. If we're counting stuff that was specifically bought for this, obviously I paid for almost all this stuff at one point or another. You're not getting any good glamour shots of this because I'm not tearing this apart. It actually functions, and I don't want to mess anything up. So the platform is basically my very first Ryzen PC from like 2019, which, gosh, that's hard to believe. That was like 7 years ago. Yeah, we have an Asus B450 motherboard. We have 16 gigabytes of DDR4 2666. I can't believe that that's worth more than it probably was when I bought it, even adjusting for inflation. I have my Ryzen 5 2600. Zen Plus, I mean, I know it's pretty old, but that's still kind of, halfway competent. You could still play modern stuff on that relatively okay. And it is overclocked to 4 gigahertz, just a straight, 4 gigahertz overclock. I didn't bother with any, boost or whatever. And I just slapped this Deep Cool AK400 on here just to cool it better than the stock heatsink. And honestly, it works really well. Super quiet. Got a Corsair CX650M down there. For storage, I knew I needed some sort of larger SSD to actually put the games on. A hard drive, even in RAID 0, was really not going to cut it in this day and age. So I got this. Yes, it's a Team Group SSD. I guess my warranty is still valid on this. Yeah, this is a 1 terabyte SSD, and so far this is the only drive in the system because I actually haven't filled it up yet. I'm probably going to end up putting some hard drives in here at some point just to, you know, help it out. I'd put another SSD in, but those are unobtainable now. I barely paid anything for that, and that's probably worth like over $100 easily now. That just, So I started with all of that as a base, and definitely a massive improvement over the old Ivy Bridge system. And for the GPU, at first, I just kind of popped in my RX 480. Yes, I still have the cooler on it, and yes, it still works very well. Just put this in there. I mean, it still works, but I definitely wanted a little bit more horsepower than this, especially for, you know, some of the newer games. Like, I don't actually really play that many intensive modern games, but, you know, just to have that assurance that, oh, I can set this to, you know, 1080p and I can just max out the settings and it's probably going to work most of the time pretty well. Now, I actually had a better card available to me than the 480. I had a GTX 1660 Super. It was one of those single fan little HP cards that I got. Basically, I just got given to me from someone who they upgraded and they just didn't want it anymore. I mean, hey, that's not bad, but that brought about some issues. One, it's an NVIDIA card, and we're running Linux, so that's not ideal. But the 1660 also only has 6 gigabytes of VRAM, and that's no. I wanted 8 as like the minimum. So I thought, like, well, okay, I have the 1660 for free, but nothing's stopping me from selling it and just buying, you know, a better, you know, AMD card. So I was looking around and I was, you know, debating a bunch of different options like 5700 XT, and then I got a really dumb idea. And I looked up the prices of Vega 64s, and I realized, oh, I can sell the 1660 and get a Vega 64, and I'm gonna pay like barely anything on top of that. So anyways, I'm now the proud owner of a reference RX Vega 64. Yeah, this was like $100. And I'm going to be completely honest, I think that was very well spent. I think I walked away from the 1660 with like $85. So yeah, I paid like maybe $15 for this at most. And yes, I did buy a reference AMD card, but this one's better than the 480. It actually has a vapor chamber in there and isn't extremely loud. I know, they actually finally figured it out, and then they moved away from blower coolers like a generation later. Yeah, this is an XFX card, and of course, there's so much to talk about with the Vega architecture, HBM, and all that stuff. All I'm going to say is that this actually isn't a terrible card. If you can find one for a really good deal, and you can deal with just having 8 gigabytes of VRAM, genuinely, honestly, you might still want to pick one of these up if you're going to be running it in Linux. That's the key thing, in Linux. Windows, they already ditched driver support for this, like a couple years ago. This still works really well in Linux. And genuinely, this would still be in here if not for this. You see, recently, my friend Goo started making money, and quite foolishly, he decided to spend some of it on me. So for Christmas, he bought me an Intel Arc B580, which is not this. Bought me the B580 because he bought himself a B580 because he wanted to have one before me, but I also wanted a B580 to mess around with, and I thought, hey, that'd be kind of cool to have in the, the SteamStation. That'd be kind of neat. It's got 12 gigabytes of VRAM. It's definitely a fair bit faster than the Vega. So I thought, hey, that'd be a good fit in here. What we didn't realize is on the minimum system requirements that Intel lists, they list like, 10th gen Intel is the minimum, and then Zen 2, so like Ryzen 3000 series and up, as the minimum. We both thought, oh, that's just for, guaranteed, resizable bar support. And I know that this motherboard has rebar support on it, and it was enabled. Anyways, I put the card in here, and it just doesn't work. It worked, but it never played a single game. There were so many different problems with it, depending on the Linux distro as well. If it was running Fedora, applications just wouldn't open. You couldn't open any single application. On Ubuntu-based systems, it would work, but then in a couple minutes, the whole GUI would start to just completely fall apart and just like get completely corrupted. And I never tried Arch because I draw the line at maining two different, distros of Linux. I stick with either Debian or Fedora stuff. I ain't touching Arch at this point. And so he tested the card, to make sure it wasn't broken, and then we eventually came to the conclusion that, oh yeah, that must just actually be a legitimate requirement to have Zen 2 or something. I guess Zen Plus just doesn't have, like, maybe it's missing an instruction or something that the Arc drivers really require. I don't know. So in exchange for that, he kept the, so now he has two B580s. In exchange, he gave me this, which is a Radeon RX 6650 XT. This is one of the XFX Swift cards. And so yeah, he gave me that. I'm still stuck on 8 gigabytes of VRAM. We haven't moved past that barrier yet, but it's okay. I mean, I really can't complain given that, you know, it was a gift, you know, that I really can't complain about that. And it definitely is faster, you know, than the Vega. It's also more power efficient, which is nice because, you know, this is like a 200 plus something watt card. And you'll notice that the card's white. These are supposed to be black, and that's because he custom painted this. I want to get up close on this, you know, actually really show you this. You know, I like to think that I'm pretty decent on the rattle can myself, but he genuinely did a really good job at painting this card. Like, if you didn't look up close, like really close on it, it looks factory. Like, if you told me this was just a naturally white card, I would 100% believe it. I mean, he even did the back plate, like, perfect. And the white with the black fans, I mean, it so perfectly matches, you know, this case, which, you know, I'm not exactly in love with. Yeah, speaking of this case, this is an Apivia XQ-Pack 3 that I bought like 7 years ago. I'm pretty sure they don't make this anymore. It has these very blue side panel windows. The only reason I'm using this is frankly because I already have it, and this cube shape actually perfectly fits in this cube like entertainment center thing that I have. It's some old Walmart thing. I don't know if they even still sell it, but this perfectly fits in there. I did have to rip the feet off, but it works so well that I really can't ever move away from this. Now, I did have to make some modifications to make life easier. So the problem with having this case in that cube organizer thing is that there's literally no space. There's like maybe like a couple millimeters at the top, and that's it. The power button is here, along with the obnoxiously bright LEDs, which thankfully get covered up. So to turn it on every time, I had to basically pull the system, you know, out, carefully press the button, and then slide it back in. I said, screw that, I'm not doing that anymore. So what I did instead was I took the 3.5-inch drive blank, and I just drilled a hole in it, and I got one of these little push buttons. So that's the power button now. Honestly, it works really well. By far the smartest decision I made with this system. This has made life like so much better. And I even added this little quick disconnect for the power button. So when I open the case up, it can just pop out. Very convenient. And if you're wondering what the little dongle's up here for, this is just for my wireless keyboard, and this is just my Bluetooth dongle. I used to have an actual PCI Wi-Fi and Bluetooth card that went in here. But when I got this card is slightly wider than 2 slots, so it doesn't actually fit in there anymore. So I had to steal this one from my main computer. And, you know, I kept looking at this and I was like, you know, this is really plain looking, kind of boring. And I'm not exactly in love with the design of this case, to be completely honest. It's neat when you first have it. It wears off kind of quickly. So I thought, you know what if I just, you know, print out a stencil of the Steam logo, and I just put it on. And honestly, it looks really good. This actually came out super well. I wouldn't say it looks factory on there by any means, but it looks pretty good. It looks worse when you look at it head on, of course, because you get all the, you know, the holes from the grill. But when you look at it at an off angle, it looks really good. So yeah, that's the SteamStation. And in total, I think I paid maybe max like $100. All of these parts are basically just stuff that was either given to me or I just already had lying around. And, you know, it's definitely not the latest. It's definitely not the most cutting edge, but it's really not that bad. Like, this thing is like within spitting distance of my main computer. Like, my main computer is a 5600X with an RX 6700 XT. This is really not that far off from it, and I didn't pay that much for this. Granted, the story would be a little different if I still had the Vega in there, but I mean, I was having no complaints with the Vega whatsoever. For the games that I play, the Vega was doing it perfectly. If you're going the Linux route, which you absolutely should, and we're going to boot this thing up in a minute here, definitely do not hesitate to, you know, go a little bit older of an AMD card, because they genuinely work great, and if you're not playing the latest and greatest games, you don't need a super modern card like this. I can't stress this enough. This card was genuinely, like, really good. So here's the setup. Like I said, this is the cube thing I was talking about, and it fits, I mean, just perfectly in there. And yeah, you can see why I wanted this button here on the front. There's, you cannot get in there at all. But it actually looks, pretty nice in here. And this is the keyboard I use for, doing things that the controller can't do. I kind of hate this thing, to be honest. It's all I have. I'll just go ahead and get it turned on here. There is blue LEDs on the CPU cooler. I wanted it as minimal, LED shine as possible, just given that, it's a console and my eyes are like here, so I don't want it blinding me when I'm looking at, the screen. And so yes, I have KDE Fedora on here. Not running Bazite, not running CachyOS, not running actual SteamOS, none of that. Because honestly, this works pretty well. Like, sure, it's not the most well integrated, but it's worked great for me. Sure, I could put Bazite on here, but it already works so well that I just don't want to mess with it. Go ahead and sync my DualShock 4 here, which annoyingly takes forever. I think it's that USB dongle's fault, because it did not take this long when I had the actual Bluetooth card in there. And this is one of the DualShock 4s that I put the Hall Effect sticks in, and it still works great. I love this controller. Yeah, you can see the games that I play on here. Yeah, I didn't exactly need that much horsepower, to be honest. I definitely do have some games in my library that more horsepower is definitely, gonna be nice. I want to play RE2 at some point. I want to play Red Dead 2 at some point. That's definitely a game we want some horsepower for. But honestly, the Vega was playing all of this stuff pretty well. BeamNG ran great. Metaphor ran really well. P5 Royal runs great on here. I'm playing through P4 Golden because I still never actually have. I've only played the PS2 version. RE4 with the HD project ran amazingly on here. RE4 with the HD project runs amazingly on here. Again, I just dug around for the stuff I had. Of course, that's just a luxury that I have, of just having a bunch of stuff lying around that I can grab from. Go ahead and boot up some Cross Worlds, because this is very fun. And even though this is a brand new modern game, I know I'm stressing how much the Vega is good, because it genuinely is. I'm a big Vega fanboy. Vega was running this game perfectly, and obviously the 6650 does as well. So yeah, honestly, I don't really play that many, intensive modern games. Most of the stuff I'm playing is older or simpler games like this. This monitor actually does support FreeSync, but you know what doesn't support FreeSync? Oh yeah, HDMI on Linux. The HDMI consortium does not get nearly enough hate. And even just seeing my own DIY version of this, I'm super excited for the Steam machine. 1080p, obviously ray tracing off, that doesn't make any sense to have turned on, even though the card is capable of it. So we can't crank the textures up super high because then we're out of VRAM, of course, but you can at least go to the 4 gig setting. We got a lot of stuff set on high here. Yeah. Honestly, that's pretty good settings. That's definitely better than like a PS4. Probably even better than like a PS4 Pro, to be honest. We're getting like 160 FPS just in here right now, but... But again, with FreeSync, this would be perfectly fine. Yeah, even this runs pretty well. It has its moments where it drops, but of course, if I fine-tune to the settings, I go ahead and hit up Red Dead 2 just because that has a built-in benchmark. Well, I didn't record it, but this is a good example why having a keyboard, wireless keyboard preferably, is so important for a system like this. Because the Steam Deck has a built-in, little mouse and keyboard thing that you can just do. If you have to have a launcher, like unfortunately Red Dead 2 does, where you have to use keyboard and mouse. So having this little wireless thing just on standby that I can just turn on at any moment's notice really makes it a lot easier. Let's leave this like right here in the middle, I suppose. Yeah, I definitely need to tweak the settings a little bit more on here to get 60 FPS, but not terrible. I'm pretty sure the medium settings is definitely higher than, like... I don't really have anything else to add, but, you know, I just wanted to show this off. Plans for other videos kind of derailed, and I've been really busy doing other stuff, so this is what you get. Hope you enjoy it. I enjoy this thing, and if y'all want to steal the SteamStation name, then go right ahead.